So this is the second of a series of 3 videos that's recapping the discussions that we had at the Kids Club Leader Summit today. Today is July 31st. So whenever it is that you're seeing this, we just finished up on that just a couple hours ago. And so I'm doing these videos while they're still fresh, while things are still up on the board. If you haven't watched the first video yet, go back and watch that video first and then come and watch this one, because all of the videos are going to kind of build on themselves as we kind of walk through what all took place today. Now, bear in mind it was 4 hours that we were together. And so even though these videos might seem lengthy, they really are a compression of everything that we discussed in that period of time. And we covered a lot of ground. And so I'm just trying to recap for you. And I wish you could have been here to be part of the discussions, because it was really good. Now, why? The question that I want to address in this video is why? Why did I have you guys fill out these swap sheets? You know, the SWOP, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, potential problems. Why did I have you fill those out, and why are we putting all these things up on the board, and where are we going with all of that? Well, let me give you a couple of stories that I shared today with the group. I've been in youth ministry for 25 years. And so I've attended a number of conferences for youth pastors, for people in ministry, those types of things. And, you know, most of those, you go to these workshops and you leave and you get all of this material, and like you come away out of this workshop or this seminar and you say, oh man, that was really good. And the next day I can't tell you what we actually talked about, or the ideas just sort of float away. But there are a couple that have stood out in my mind and that I still have with me today, because there were some things that were said that really crystallized things in my own mind, or that were kind of, in some sense, life-changing for me. And I want to share 2 of those with you, because I think they're going to help you understand why I've asked you guys to be a part of doing these whole evaluations of Kids Club, but also help you to understand kind of me and how I process things and how I do things. The first, I went to a seminar, and it was Reggie Joyner was the speaker at this particular event. And he started off, he was up on the stage, and he had brought his computer with him. And he brought a Apple II from 1985. Now, if you remember the Apple II from 1985, it was the first portable computer. Now, the thing is a huge box, right? It's got the screen, it's all built in there, weighs about 35, 40 pounds, but it was portable, right? And he asked the question, he's like, so hey, if you guys had come in today and you had seen me sitting up here at the table working away at my Apple II, how would you have felt about that? And he said, you know, the reality is you would probably feel sorry for me. Boy, that poor guy, he's stuck using that old computer. He can't do much with that. But he says, you know, here's the thing. He says, what if I have this old computer and I'm working on my Apple from 1985, and I wanted to install Photoshop on this computer? What would happen? Well, obviously it wouldn't work, right? And he says, can you imagine that phone call to tech support? I'd call him and I'd say, hi, I'm having trouble. I'm trying to load Photoshop onto my computer, and it's just not working. Their question to me would be, okay, that's great, sir. We're happy to help you. What kind of system are you running? And I'd respond saying, well, I'm running my Apple II from 1985. At that point, there would be silence on the other end of the line. And what's actually happening is that guy is now gathering all of his friends around, because, come on, you got to hear this guy. And he'd come back and he'd say, sir, you can't load Photoshop onto a computer from 1985. It's not going to work. You're going to need to upgrade your system. And he went on from there and he said, you know, a lot of churches, a lot of ministries struggle because they have they see these new programs that other churches are doing, and they try to pull them into their church, and they say, well, you know, how come it doesn't work? How come I can't make this work in my church? And the problem is sometimes our churches are still operating on an old system. And sometimes what we need to do is to not just look at it and say, okay, hey, how do we get a program that works? But we say, okay, what is it that we're really trying to accomplish? And do we need to upgrade our system in some way to be able to do that? And so one of the things that as we move particularly into video 3, I want us to look at what are our strengths? What are the core things? What are the things that are important to us? But do we need to move to a newer system, right? Not just, hey, here's some new technology or a new idea, but to really think through, hey, this might be a complete system upgrade that we're looking at. Not literal system upgrade, but in terms of the platform that Kids Club runs on, does that need to change in order for us to be effective in doing some of the things that we're going to be talking about next? Second thing that I want to share with you is I attended a conference, and the speaker was Mark DeVries, and he's actually the head of the, believe it or not, there is an Institute for Youth Ministry Research. Who knew? And one of the things they did, and this was from about 2009, so we're many years removed. A lot of the information that he shared is now outdated and outmoded. But here's one of the things he did is they went, and I think it was around 3,000 different youth ministries in multiple different countries. And they just went and they asked a whole ton of questions, and they tried to get a sense of, people in ministry and ministries and what's successful, what's not successful, and looking at just observing what is. And one of the things he qualified with is saying, we're not saying this is what should be. We're just saying that we went around and talked to people, and this is what's reality. And one of the things he shared, I think, is true not just of youth ministry, but of ministry and of people in general. And here's what he found as they went around and they talked to a bunch of people. And he said, let me give you an illustration. If you wanted to build a house, what's the first thing you would do? Well, the first thing you do is you'd go and talk to an architect. But is the architect going to build you a house? No, architect isn't going to build you a house. He's going to show you a picture of a house. He's going to say, this is what your house could look like. And he's going to draw up a blueprint of, how you would go about building that type of a house. And you're going to leave with that blueprint, but you still don't have a house. What's the second thing you're going to do? You're going to take that blueprint, you're going to give it to a contractor. And the contractor is going to open it up, and he's going to look at your blueprint, and he's going to begin to make some notes. And, okay, we need so much of this, and we need so much of that. But is the contractor going to build your house for you? No, contractor isn't going to build your house. He's actually going to start making a list of all the people he knows that need to be involved in building the house, right? So, okay, we're going to need an electrician, we're going to need a plumber, we're going to need a bricklayer, we're going to need a drywall guy, and he's going to know who's who, right? He's not just going to call the electrician and call him to put in the drywall. And you're not going to just hand the whole blueprint to a plumber and say, hey, go for it, right? So he's going to break that down, and he's going to say, okay, who are the people we need to have, and what are they going to need from me in order for them to be able to do what they do? Now, the reality is the contractor can do all this stuff, but you still don't have a house. You don't have a house until the laborers actually show up and do the work and build it for you. There's three functions that need to happen there. There's an architect that has the big picture. There's a contractor who gets the people involved. And then there's the laborers who actually come and do the work. And he said, here's what we found, is that there are people who get into youth ministry, and I think this is true for any ministry, because they're really excited and really passionate about one of those three areas, right? But they don't realize they have to do all three. And what happens is they last for a few months or maybe a year or two, but they're not interested in doing the rest of it, and it just doesn't work. But what does happen, the people who are in for long haul are not people who are, excel at all three. Usually what happens is they're really passionate and excited and interested in one of those areas. They're passable at a second one, but they're horrible at the third. And, when I heard that, for me, it was like, I said, praise God, I'm normal, right? Because here's the thing, for me, I'm an architect. Doing stuff like putting all of this stuff up on the board and thinking through, hey, what are our strengths? What are our weaknesses? What are some ideas? Where are we going? What do we want to see happen? What's the system? What's the big picture behind all of this? Man, that is the stuff I love doing. And I'm passable when it comes to actually doing ministry, right? Put me in a room with kids and a Bible, and man, I can have some fun with that. I enjoy doing that. And, I'm getting older, but I can still relate to teenagers pretty well and to kids a little bit. And so, those are the things that I love to do. The area where I am horrible is in the contacting, organizing of people, the promoting and getting advertising out for things. I mean, look, I try, guys, but this is just not an area that I am gifted in. It's not an area that I'm passionate about, and it sucks the energy and the life out of me. Now, why do I share that with you? Because I'm replacing some people who are very gifted in that area, right? There are lists of things, right? Here's what we need to do if we're going to accomplish this ministry. And here's the list of what needs to get done. And here's what this club gets. And here's what that club gets. And here's the people that want this. And here's the people that want that. And I've got these volunteers organized. And I know which volunteer is good at doing what. And all of those things. And quite honestly, all of those things just make my head hurt. And so Kids Club might end up looking a little bit differently just because I'm wired up different than the previous directors. And I don't have the same skills and the same giftedness. And so, guys, I just need you to give me a little bit of grace and to recognize that, hey, I'm going to be more of the big picture guy, and I'm going to be more of the trainer guy that's going to come alongside and say, hey, how can I help you to be able to do ministry? But I'm not really this great organizer, conductor of all of the people. And so I just share that with you for what it's worth, maybe in helping you to understand how it is that I process things and think through things and why some of the things that you see might look the way they do. A third thing that I want to share with you, and probably I should have shared this at the beginning of this video, but I don't want to go back and re-record it all again. This is your ministry. The way I see it, Kids Club really is the ministry of the club leaders. You're the ones that are working with students. You're the ones that are there to be the Bible teacher. You're the ones that are there to teach them and to shepherd them as their leader. My job is simply to come alongside you and to encourage you and to support you and to provide resources for you. But really the reason I brought you guys into this whole process, I know for some of you, you might be saying, I don't have time for this. This is why we have a director, and that's fine. But really, I want your feedback because you're the ones that are actually doing the ministry. And so the question becomes, how can we together do this better? But also, it's not hey, Andy's got this great idea for ministry. I want this to really be a ministry of the club leaders. And so those are some of the reasons why we're doing the things we're doing. In the third video, I want to show you some tools and some things that we're working on here at Kids Club, and some of the things that might look a little bit different, some of the things we're going to make available to you this year. And I do want to get your feedback on, hey, is this something that will be useful to you? Because when I showed these things to people today, they got pretty excited about it. And so I'm looking forward to hopefully seeing these things, be put into practice and be used in the various clubs this coming year.